Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Unsung Season 10, and the episode tonight was about John B. I must say I was so happy for this episode because I'm a big John B fan. I still listen to his music to this day. I definitely even remember growing up listening to him in the early 90s, and some of those songs are still imprints in my life. So let's jump right in. One thing that stuck out about this episode is what Babyface said about him is that he's no novelty. He's the real deal. You know, this is not some white boy who's trying to sound black. This is a white boy with soul, with true, authentic soul. And if you are a true fan of John B., you will know that this is authentic. This is real. And you definitely get that vibe from him when he sings. Like, this is a man who really has soul, you know, buried deep within him, and it exudes, and it really inspires people. I mean, because even to this day, I mean, he has still a very huge fan base, and the fans love interacting with him, and he loves interacting with his fans, and I really respect an artist like that because they're true artists. You know, they're not in it just for the glitz and the glam. They're in it to connect with the people. And that's what true artistry is all about, is really connecting with people and inspiring them to be better in whatever situation they're going through. So he was actually born Jonathan Buck in 1974. He was actually born in Rhode Island, but was raised in Pasadena, California. I actually had an aunt that lived in Pasadena. Pasadena is pretty nice, and it's very, you know, California groovy. But the good thing about it is that he said he pretty much grew up in a diverse environment. So, and then he pretty much says that his father was a music conductor and that his mother was a concert pianist. So he pretty much grew up around music. Him and his siblings, they all dabbled in music, but he had a different. He pretty much had a different approach to music, and he had a different ear than his family. He pretty much, you know, was attracted to beats. And definitely, you know, when you think about R&B or you think about soul, trust me, the beat is everything. So we pretty much saw early on he definitely had that innate attraction to soul music from an early age. And also, they mentioned that his grandparents owned a record store, so he was listening to everybody. You know, some of the best, you know, soul and R&B that was ever created, he had access to on the regular because mommy and daddy ran a record store. I would have loved that too, man. I mean, because I'm definitely a big music head myself, and I listen to music all the time. So as much as I listen to music, I mean, I would have been in heaven if I had grandparents that had a record store. So kudos to him for that. That's awesome. So, but pretty much, you know, he pretty much had a really good upbringing. He pretty much, you know, grew up with parents who were not only loyal and supportive, but also taught him to embrace everyone. So he pretty much grew up with a more diverse and pretty much a multicultural outlook on life and on people, and that's very rewarding. And he pretty much said that. He pretty much said that, you know, some of his big influences growing up was pretty much those singers from New Jack Swing, you know, like Aaron Hall and, you know, Guy, Teddy Riley. He mentioned Bobby Brown and a few others, you know, I'll Be Sure, you know, some of these good, you know, some of these good R&B voices from the New Jack Swing were some of his influences. And you can definitely see that, and definitely he also mentioned Babyface. You know, Babyface was probably his biggest influence, and he's been a big fan of Babyface. But then the irony is that Babyface was just as much of a fan of him as well. So that was awesome to see. And they also mentioned that as a child, he pretty much was self-taught in drums, guitar, keyboarding, as well as songwriting, and he was even singing this song called "I Met a Girl," and the way he sung it, it was really cheesy, but it was a really good song though, because it was kind of catchy. I was like, oh my God, I can relate to that. I mean, because I write songs also, and definitely when you have like those kind of songs, I mean, they definitely have like they have an imprint on you, even if it doesn't get to the charts. You know, the song still resonates something within you. But this song that he wrote, I Met a Girl, and I admit it was a cute song. I liked it. I was kind of like, oh, that shit sounds really nice. Oh, okay, I'm feeling it. But he actually performed this song at a competition, and I think Troop was actually there, and they actually saw him. And if I get anything wrong, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'm all here for that. But he pretty much met Troop at this singing competition he was at, and pretty much they even commented on him and said that, look, he definitely has something special. So they even saw it within him at that age that there was something special about John B. And then he also mentions that in high school he had it pretty rough because of him being a white guy, surrounded pretty much in a more pretty much more of a minority environment, or pretty much being around us, and people. I mean, and it happens in both sides, and it's pretty much sad because racial tensions, are still at an all-time high, even as of now with our new elect president. I mean, it's crazy, and pretty much he somewhat dealt with that, going to school, because him being a white boy surrounded by the blacks, the blacks are like, oh, this white boy this, this white boy that, and, pretty much, the stereotypes, on both sides, it just pretty much led to a crazy environment for him. So his family pretty much got him into a better school, and when he transferred to this new school, I think this is where he met his first wife. And pretty much while he was there, he was also shopping around his demos, and this is where Tracy Edmonds, who is the former ex-wife of Babyface, Kenneth Edmonds, that is, she pretty much found a cassette, and, she took it to Babyface, and they both listened to it, and Babyface was like, he definitely heard something. And then when he found out the guy was white, he was like, oh, he's white? Oh, okay. Bring him in here. Let's see what's up. Because at the end of the day, real, how we are, how we are as a people. We can tell if someone is real with their shit or whether they're faking. And you can listen to John B. and know that he was for real, that is authentic, that is true. And he's a true artist, and I definitely am a man who respects true artistry. So that was something that that was great to see, that he pretty much judged him off of his talent and off of his credibility, and they pretty much became not only good friends but also collaborators as well. So he ends up signing with Tracy's production company, but then he pretty much makes a deal with Sony Epic, which was the same label that Babyface was on. And they decided, instead of just putting him out there immediately, that they really wanted to get his name out there, not just as an artist, but mainly also as a producer and songwriter. So he started writing for many countless artists, like, for example, Tony Braxton, TLC, After 7. I even think he also wrote for Michael Jackson as well. So he's written for a lot of artists and has really, built a massive body of work even before he became, the solo artist that we know as John B. Well, pretty much after he established himself, he puts out the album Bonafide, and the song Someone to Love is still a song I will always remember, because I remember the song when I was a little boy. I used to see it on BET all the time. I used to hear it on the radio, and the 90s had such beautiful melodic music, and this was a really good ballad that both him and Babyface did together. And pretty much, I think it was a song that Babyface wrote, actually, and here it was, he was just thinking that Babyface was going to just work with him on it, or he had certain ideas that he wanted John to do, but then Babyface was like, no, I'm getting on this song with you. So John was honored that he really, my idol, one of my mentors wants to do a song with me. So it was a win-win, and it became a top 10 R&B hit, and it also was nominated for a Grammy. So straight out the gate, John B exploded, and what better way to do it than doing it with, you know, Kenneth Babyface Edmonds? I mean, you can't get no better than that. Then, you know, pretty much, you know, Someone to Love went platinum. But then, you know, he still got, you know, had to deal with the pushback for being a white boy, you know, singing R&B music. But this song is definitely one of my favorites from him, Pretty Girl. I love that track even to this day. And the funny thing about it, this song is very, you know, sexual, very explicit. But it's done so beautifully because of the melody and the way that he sings and the way that he, you know, shapes his phrases and the way that he, how the way his voice just is just so beautifully, it's just so melodic throughout the entire piece that you forget that it's a nasty song because it's like he took a nasty song and he put love on it. So he gave love to nasty, and I think that's why Pretty Girl still stands to this day, and I love that song. I mean, every now and then I just kind of get into it, like, your lips, your smile. I'm like, I mean, I still love that track, and it's great that definitely that's one of his songs that people know him by. And one thing I also respected about John B. too is that he was in it to be a true artist. He wasn't in it just to be like a big star or to just make a lot of money. Because a lot of people get into the industry for various reasons. You know, some get into it because this is their passion, this is what they love to do. And then you got some who's in it for the money, for the buck, you know, for the glitz, the glam, you know, the attention. And the fact that he pretty much said that he didn't get into this game to be a pop artist because he's a true R&B artist. He's a true soul artist, and he says that I'm not gonna betray, you know, the fan base that made me, and I'm not gonna betray who I am. You know, I didn't get into the game just to sing pop and make all this money and just be popular. You know, so that one thing I definitely respected about John B. That he's authentic and he's true to who he is, and that he's not trying to, you know, play the formula just to stay popular. And he's saying that, look, this is soul music, and soul is all about you. And they also talked about the song Don't Say, which I think was on his second album. And definitely Don't Say was, I definitely remember the video because Sanaa Lathan was in the video. And, you know, pretty much she was, it's pretty much about his high school sweetheart, you know, the woman who ended up becoming his first wife. And pretty much the song pretty much says it in the title, you know, don't say you're going to do something and you don't do it. You know, you say you're going to leave, you say you're going to do this, you say you're going to do that, but you don't do shit. So it's like, don't say nothing if you're not going to do nothing, which is real, you know, just as real as you can be. But the song that really changed the game for him, and this song is still, you know, pretty much a classic to this day, is They Don't Know. And that song is pretty much about also his relationship with his high school sweetheart. And pretty much in that song, he pretty much is, you know, saying that, look, don't listen to what everybody's saying because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what we got going on. You know, stop believing everything what people say about me. But the part that always sticks out in that song, and I even remember this because when I was in in middle school, I was actually at a I think it was like an end of school cookout that we had at the school. So the whole school was shut down. You know, we had this big ass cookout, and everybody's out, you know, having a good time. We even got a DJ there, and he's playing John B, and they're playing They Don't Know. And this girl who was a friend of mine, she was talking to another friend, totally just having a conversation while John B is playing. But as soon as that part comes in, you're my angel, she sings that shit and then goes right back into her conversation. It's like she stopped just to sing that line. And it's funny because even when they showed him performing it on Unsung, as soon as that part came in, the crowd sings it. So that song is timeless, and that song still resonates with me to this day. And it went number 2 on the R&B charts, and it's pretty much his signature song, and pretty much one of his biggest hits. And that song definitely still has a place. But I definitely loved it. That was definitely a cool track. And also, they even talk about the track "Are You Still Down" that he did with Tupac. It went to number 2 on the R&B charts, and coincidentally, that was the last song that Tupac worked on before he was shot and killed in Vegas. So, and at first he was not going to release it because he says that, look, I'm not going to make a mockery or just try to make money off of this guy's death. You know, I respect him and I respect his family. But Afeni Shakur told him that, you know, he played that song, you know, for her, and he never played any of, and she told him that, and that Tupac never played any of his songs to me, but he played that song. So she's letting them know, you got my blessing. Put this song out there. People need to hear this. People need to hear you, and they need to hear him. So he released the song, and it went number 2 on the R&B charts. And it was cool. And you know, it was great to hear Pac again. That, you know, that one, you got to hear how great Pac you got to hear how great of an artist Pac was. And still is, you know, posthumously. I mean, you know, pretty much Pac is timeless as well. And we really got to hear pretty much hip hop and R&B, you know, make a beautiful song together. And it really was a true testament that Pac really had something special as well. So you had 2 special individuals coming together to make something beautiful. Then they also mentioned the song "I Do," which was another beautiful song, which talked about pretty much interracial relationships and, you know, coming together to, you know, where you're blending your families together, and you know they actually show in the video where he's, you know, with his black queen, you know, his beautiful black woman. And he's pretty much, you know, having dinner with her family, and while he's there, he proposes to her, and the family embraces him. And that definitely was a great track as well. And I think that was on his you know, Cool Relax album. And I think Cool Relax is everything that's John B, because he really is a cool, relaxed guy. Like, I could see myself, you know, drinking some highballs with him, having a conversation, just throwing them back and just talking. And he will be just as chilled. And I like that about John B, that he's just this real, true, you know, balladeer and soul singer. And we need that right now. We need some soul back in music, and we definitely need artists that make us feel good again. But I have to say, my favorite song from John B is "Don't Talk," which was on the Pleasures You Like album. Now, even though this album did not get the push that it deserved, but "Don't Talk" definitely was a new sound for John B, because it was more urban, and plus it was more dance. But it just goes to show you that he was a dynamic artist. He pretty much embodied, you know, the flares of R&B. You know, he even also created a new soul group. I mean, he did a lot of great things. Like, this man was completely, you know, entrenched in the beauty of R&B music. So hearing "Don't Talk," I mean, that's still my thing. Like, don't talk, baby, just come over and take a seat. I mean, I just love that track, and it's like, it's a really good dance track. Like, John B, and then like seeing him in the video where, you know, you seeing him on top of the roof behind the buildings, looking like he's king of the world. I mean, it was a really beautiful video, and you really got to see him dance and just get loose and get crunk with everybody, you know. I mean, and "Don't Talk" is definitely, you know, my favorite song from him, and it shows that he's, you know, was an artist that really broke through and decided to, you know, be himself. And sadly, you know, the label that he was on really didn't see his vision as being an R&B artist, and he said the more R&B he went, the more they pulled away from him, the more they didn't promote his work, and then eventually he decided to sever ties with his label and asked to be released from his contract. And then again, you know, also within this, you know, him and his first wife, you know, had a divorce. His studio caught on fire, and it was over $200,000 worth of like, you know, tracks and things that he did from his childhood that were just now gone. And he really went down a really deep, dark path, and he met this woman, Danette, I think it was her name, who became his second wife. She pretty much helped get him back on track, became his best friend during one of the worst times of his life. And it's a beautiful thing, because sometimes when you hit that rock bottom, you just need that one person to get you back on track. And that one person is not there to judge, but is there to aid and to support. And then they also talk about his album Stronger Every Day, which he did on Matthew Knowles' label. And that situation didn't work out because Matthew Knowles didn't have good relationships with the record companies. Well, not the record companies, but the radio companies, I meant. Because, you know, as you remember, like, Destiny Child was actually signed to Columbia. He was their manager, but John B was actually signed under him, so the situation was different. So because he didn't have good relationship with radios, and no matter what, you know, anything that Matthew did, they weren't going to play them, no matter who the artist was. So it pretty much didn't work out for him. But as a trooper, he bounced back, you know. And I like the fact that, you know, even to this day, he sells out venues. He still is releasing albums. I think recently he just signed with Warren. What's Warren's last name? Warren Campbell. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, Warren Campbell. He's just recently signed with Warren Campbell, so he definitely, you know, got a good collaboration there, and I really hope great things come for him with that deal. But also the main things I love about him is that he loves his fans. He's a man of God. You know, he's a family man. You know, because he has 2 daughters now. You know, he definitely is a man that loves his wife. You know, he still has a close relationship with his family. I mean, he's a true embodiment of what cool and relaxed is, and what a true man is. You know, a man who is just happy being him. And I loved how the way it ended, because Tracy Edmonds pretty much says that what you get with John B every time is the real deal. And I could not more agree. You know, and even me being a fan of his, I've always, you know, was attracted to John B because you got the real. So that's my review for you guys. Subscribe to my channel. Leave comments, like this video, share this video. If I missed anything, please put it down in the comments. I would love to talk to you about it. And I will be back with you guys next week for another episode of Unsung. So until then, take care.